Hey, you made it. Tonight's story is warm, quiet, and just a little scandalous. You're about to share something private. Not with a queen this time, but with the woman who held more power in the shadows than most ever did in the spotlight. No titles, no court, just you, and the most whispered about woman in France. If you enjoy these late-night journeys into forbidden corners of history, take a moment to like this video and subscribe. And let me know in the comments where you re-listening from. It is always incredible to see how far this little time machine travels. Now, dim the lights, get comfortable, and let's slip into a time when one night could rewrite everything. Tonight, you spend the night with the king's favorite mistress. You arrive late. The palace is sleeping, mostly, but her chamber glows like it hasn't heard the news. Candles still burn at full height. Perfume lingers like it was just sprayed. And somewhere, beyond the carved doors and velvet curtains, you can hear her laughter echo softly down the corridor. You hesitate at first, not because you're afraid, but because every part of this feels like a line crossed. She is, after all, the king's. The most whispered about woman in France. The one they write poems about when they think she's not listening. The one who wears royal favor like a second skin. But tonight she invited you. Not through a scroll or a servant. Not with ceremony or stamps. Just a glance. A half smile. A hand brushed lightly across your sleeve. And the words, "Come to me when the palace sleeps." And now here you are. You step inside quietly. The room swallows you like velvet. Everything is soft. The rugs, the cushions, even the air. It smells like roses and something darker beneath. Like secrets that have been waiting all day for the chance to breathe. She doesn't look up at first. She's lying sideways on a fainting couch, surrounded by discarded gowns and silk slippers. One leg draped lazily over the side. A jeweled anklet catching the light. A wine goblet rests loosely in her hand, half full or half empty, depending on how much you're willing to risk tonight. "I thought you'd make me wait longer," she says without turning. Her voice isn't loud. It's lazy, like a cat stretching across a sun-warmed floor. Like she's been waiting not with impatience, but certainty. You don't answer yet. You let your body adjust to the space, to the weight of the curtains, to the way the firelight flickers across her bare shoulder, to the realization that this isn't a trap, not the kind they warned you about anyway. She looks over her shoulder finally. Her eyes catch yours, not wide or surprised, just certain. "You're quiet," she says, sitting up just enough to pour more wine. That's dangerous in this place. Quiet people are always hiding something. You wonder what she's hiding too. They call her the king's favorite, but you've heard the rumors. That her laughter can buy loyalty. That her smile can ruin ministers. That her scent has started wars between men who don't even like women. But none of that matters tonight. Because she didn't ask for a courtier, or a poet, or a king. She asked for you. She pats the space beside her without speaking. A cushion shifts. A space opens up where no space should exist in a room like this. You sit, because what else would you do? She watches you carefully. "Do you know what I miss?" she asks. Her tone has shifted. It's quieter now, more like a secret being passed in a chapel. "I miss nights where I didn't have to be anything. Not beautiful, not clever, not envied, not envying. Just here, breathing. Unnoticed. You don't interrupt. You just listen." She reaches for your wrist without warning. Her fingers are cool, but her touch is sure. She traces the lines of your palm like a reader of fortunes, or someone who's forgotten her own. "There," she says, pausing at the edge of your hand. "Right there. That's the line of desire." Yours goes deep. You wonder if she says that to everyone. You hope not. The fire pops, breaking the silence. She moves closer, not in a rush, not for effect. Just Closer, like your nearness is a truth she's been circling all day. You don't look like the others, she says finally. They all try so hard. You didn't. You're not sure if that's a compliment, but it feels like one. She refills your glass without asking. The wine is rich and warm. Sweet at first, then sharp, like truth disguised as kindness. Outside, the wind shifts. The palace creaks like it's remembering something. Maybe it once held nights like this in every hallway. Maybe ghosts still pause at this doorway, just to watch. She leans back again. Her robe falls slightly, revealing a shoulder dusted with faint freckles, the kind no portrait painter would dare include. Tell me something, she says, but don't make it sweet. I have too many sweet things. Tell me something raw. You think for a moment. Then you do. And whatever you say, it makes her smile. Not the royal smile. Not the court-trained grin. Something smaller, softer, like a girl before she became myth. She lifts her goblet again, toasting the air between you. To the ones who see us before the mirrors, she says, tapping your glass with hers. The sound is delicate, like a bell calling no one. You drink. The fire has grown lower, but the heat remains. You can't tell if it's just the wine or her presence, or the slow way she lets the silence sit between sentences, like a ribbon waiting to be untied. She shifts position again, closer than before. This time, her knee touches yours, and neither of you moves. She doesn't speak again for a while. Instead, she lets the silence stretch, not as punishment, but as permission. The kind of silence that doesn't ask for anything, that just wants to sit beside you and exist. Her fingers tap idly against the rim of her goblet, not out of boredom, more like memory. I used to dance, she says finally, before any of this, before the jewels, before they started painting me like I was already dead and gilded. She smiles faintly. Not on a stage, not for money, for myself, in corridors, in fields, on beds I didn't own. I danced because no one told me not to yet. You glance toward her feet, bare now, with one silk slipper dangling from a toe. Now, she continues, I can't even walk through a room without someone writing a poem about it. And still, none of them know the sound my feet used to make on cold stone. She takes a sip of wine. I miss being witnessed, not performed. And then she looks at you again, this time more directly. That's what you are, isn't it? A witness. You want to answer yes. But the truth is, you're still figuring out what you are in this room. In this moment. In this world, she's letting you borrow for the night. She leans her head against your shoulder gently. Not heavy, not urgent. Just there. You smell like someone who's seen quiet things, she says. I like that. The fire flickers. Somewhere down the hallway, a door creaks open, then closes again. Not here. Not now. Somewhere else in the palace where someone is waking up or lying down or slipping out of a bed that wasn't theirs. But here, in this room, everything's still. You reach for the goblet, now resting beside her knee, and take a sip. She watches you over the rim, amusement dancing just under the surface. You're comfortable, she observes. Good. That means you're starting to believe none of this is a trap. You set the goblet down, slower than you picked it up. She reaches for your hand again, not to read it this time, but to hold it. I don't need a lover tonight, she says softly. I need something quieter, something without expectation. You squeeze her hand back. You're dangerous, she whispers, almost to herself. Not like the king, she adds, who's dangerous because he knows it. You're dangerous because you pretend not to be. A breeze touches the curtains. They billow ever so slightly, revealing the black outside. She sighs. I used to think I'd marry a poet. Someone who would write about my sleep, not just my eyes. Someone who would forget to mention my beauty and remember my rage instead. She closes her eyes for a moment. But here I am, she says. A poem in a language I forgot how to speak. Her voice drifts into the space between you. and you realize she's not trying to seduce you. She's trying to remember herself through you. She stands not abruptly, not dramatically, just rises like something inside her decided it was time. You watch the robe shift around her, soft and loose and heavy with embroidered gold. It slides slightly off one shoulder, but she doesn't fix it. She walks, barefoot, to the corner of the room where a screen hides a copper basin and a folded towel. She glances over her shoulder. "Well," she says, "are you going to just sit there, or are you going to keep me company while I pretend I am not a symbol?" You follow, quietly, behind the screen. The space is simple, not grand like the throne rooms or ballrooms. This isn't meant for public display. It's hers, a little sliver of private life stitched between performances. She kneels beside the basin, pours water from a pitcher, and dips her hands in. "It's cold," she murmurs with a shiver. "I never asked for warm water. Warm water makes me feel too human, and I'm not allowed to be that most days." She cups her hands, lets the water run down her wrists, and breathes out slowly like the cold is medicine. You sit across from her on a tufted cushion that doesn't match the rest of the room, a worn piece from some forgotten corner, perhaps something she refused to let them replace. She dips a cloth in the water, wrings it gently, and presses it to her neck. "I don't bathe to be clean," she says. "I bathe to forget how much of me isn't mine anymore." You don't speak. You just watch her move, slow, precise, not like someone trying to seduce, but someone trying to return to herself. Her robe slips more as she leans forward. A strand of hair escapes her pinned curls and brushes her collarbone. She doesn't fix that either. She looks up at you, cloth still in hand. "Have you ever seen someone without all their costumes?" she asks. "No rings, no rouge, no second names?" You nod. "Then you know," she says. "You know that what's left behind isn't lesser. Just ... Quieter." She holds the cloth out to you. "Your turn." You blink. She smiles. "Not to wash, just to feel what I feel." You take the cloth, dip it, wring it, press it to your own neck. The cold hits gently, a reminder that you're here, now, with her, in a room no history book will mention. She watches you like someone watching a star fall, slowly, softly, with the knowledge that the moment can't last. But that doesn't make it less sacred. And in that moment, nothing else exists. Just a basin of water, a fading fire, and a woman who the world thinks belongs to someone else. But tonight belongs only to herself, and to this hour with you. She takes the cloth from your hand. Without a word, there's no need for one. The silence between you has grown thick enough to hold meaning. She stands again, stretching her arms above her head. And for a moment, she looks younger than you've ever seen her. Not because of age, but because the weight she wears has slipped off her shoulders. If only for a minute, it's like watching a statue breathe. She walks back to the sitting area and motions for you to join her. You do. She doesn't sit on the couch this time. She sits on the rug. Legs tucked underneath, hair loosening by the second, robe slipping where it may. You sit beside her, mirroring her posture. There's something childlike about it, but not naive, more like sacred, playing memory of softness, untouched by politics or poetry. She reaches for a small box, tucked beside the hearth. Inside are folded letters, ribbons, and one piece of folded paper stained with wax and time. "These aren't love letters," she says, sensing the question. "They're reminders." She hands one to you. It's simple, a few lines, written in a hurried hand. It reads like someone trying to remember who they were. "I write to myself," she says. "Every time I feel like I'm disappearing, I write something down and hide it from the world. Then when I need it, I read it and remember that even if I've been rewritten, I still exist beneath the edits." She pauses. "Do you ever forget who you are?" You nod. Slowly, she leans her head onto your shoulder again, this time with more weight. "Then maybe we remember each other," she whispers. Outside, a soft breeze stirs the trees. The sounds of Versailles at night, distant fountains, rustling leaves, the occasional creak of ancient wood, surround you like a lullaby. You close your eyes, only for a moment, And when you open them, she's looking at you again. Not like before. This time, her eyes are softer. Not with sorrow, with gratitude. As long as I remember tonight, she says, no one can say they owned all of me. And she smiles a real smile, one not meant for courts or cameras or kings. Just for you, just for this, just for now. The fire has dimmed now down to a soft amber. Glow shadows move more freely across the walls, no longer shaped by heat or hierarchy. She stands once more, quietly, and you rise with her, not out of obligation, but instinct. She moves to the window. You follow at a small distance, far enough not to crowd, close enough to feel her presence still trailing the air between you. She unlatches the shutters and lets in the night. Moonlight spills in, silver and cool. It traces her cheekbone, her collarbone, the small dip at the base of her throat. She turns her face slightly upward, eyes closed, and breathes in the air like it belongs only to her. No perfumes, she murmurs. No powders, just sky and breath. You watch her there, framed by candlelight behind and moonlight before, and you realize you will remember this image longer than any portrait hanging in any gilded hall. She turns, meeting your gaze again, that this time it's not her who crosses the room. It's you. You step forward, not to kiss, not to speak, just to stand beside her, shoulder brushing shoulder. She looks at you with the kind of calm usually reserved for endings, and says softly, "This is the safest I've felt in years." You don't answer. You don't need to, because your presence says it all. In this palace full of power plays and secret letters, of hidden hands and gloved threats, she has found something rare. Not possession, not obsession, presence. And presence, to a woman like her, is the most scandalous thing of all. She steps just slightly closer, her head resting gently against yours. And for a while, you both say nothing. You just listen. To the night, to the wind, to the space between heartbeats. And in that shared silence, history loses its teeth. The mistress becomes more than myth. And you? You become the only person who ever saw her without her war paint. She pulls away gently and walks across the room, barefoot on silk rugs, trailing silence behind her. Her hands move toward a small chest near the fireplace, one of those forgotten pieces of furniture too old to match the rest, which is probably why she loves it. She opens it slowly, fingers tracing familiar notches in the wood, and lifts something out. A brush, simple, wooden, worn at the handle. She holds it up to you, playful but tender. "Will you?" she asks, and for the second time tonight, you take something from her hands and understand that what she is offering isn't a task. It has trust. She sits down on the floor in front of you, robe draped around her shoulders like a whisper, and turns her back. The fire flickers, the moonlight softens. You begin brushing her hair. Each stroke is slow, careful. Her curls loosen, fall sway. The brush glides through like it's been waiting all evening for this moment of stillness. Her body relaxes under your touch, not in surrender, but in relief. "You're gentle," she says. "Not many people are anymore." You keep brushing. She exhales, long, deep, like she's letting go of something that's been lodged in her chest since childhood. "You know," she murmurs, "sometimes I forget there is more to me than what I've survived." You pause for just a second, then you keep brushing. Odien. We keep washing. The silence that follows is thick and warm. It is not the kind that demands words. It is the kind that wraps around two people and gives them permission to exist without performance outside. The wind rises again. You hear distant footsteps. Maybe a servant. Maybe a ghost. They pass. You finish the last stroke and set the brush down. She doesn't move at first. Just sits there, hair cascading like melted ink down her back. Head bowed slightly as if in prayer or gratitude or quiet exhaustion. Then, finally, she looks back over her shoulder. Her eyes shimmer, not with tears, but with softness. "You made me feel like I was never meant to be watched," she whispers. "Only seen." And in that moment, the mistress becomes something else entirely. Not legend, not scandal. But a woman, warm, breathing, real. She rises again, slow and fluid, hair trailing down her back like soft thread unwinding. She walks to the fireplace and crouches low, feeding in a sliver of wood to keep the flame alive just a little longer. The shadows shift again, dancing gently across her skin, across the folds of her robe, across the corners of the room that no one else ever sees. She stares into the fire like she's watching a memory, not flames. "I used to think," she says, barely louder than the crackle, "that power was about being wanted." She pauses. "But I've learned it's about being known, truly, quietly, without question." She turns, leans against the hearth, and looks at you. "Tonight, I don't want to be adored. I want to be remembered." She walks over, sits across from you again. Closer this time, her knees nearly touch yours. And suddenly the palace doesn't matter. The corridors and curtains and secret staircases fade. The name she's been called, the poems she's inspired, the scandals she survived, all of it dissolves in the warm stillness between you. She studies your face for a moment, like she's drawing it into memory. And then she speaks again. "I hope when I'm gone, someone tells the truth." You tilt your head gently. "Not about who I loved," she clarifies, "but how I loved." She smiles softly. "There's a difference." You nod, and she sees that you understand, which is more than most ever gave her. She reaches for your hand again, and this time, her fingers don't tremble, they rest, and you realize this isn't a seduction at all. It's a confession, a plea to be more than a name in a book, more than a footnote in a king's story, more than the sum of rumors stitched together by candlelight. She leans back, slightly resting on her palms, eyes still on yours. The fire crackles low now, casting a soft amber hue across her bare collarbone and the space between you. Her robe slips further, but there's no pretense in the gesture, nothing performative. She is not unveiling herself for effect. She is simply letting the room see her as she is. "You know," she says, "the king once gave me a necklace worth more than a village. But tonight, this," she gestures gently between you, "feels rarer." She laughs once, under her breath, like she didn't mean to say that out loud. You smile. She catches it, holds it in her gaze. "I used to think intimacy was loud, all hands and heat and declarations, but it isn't." "Not really." Her voice lowers, softer than before. "It's this. The part where you sit still and let someone exist near you, without asking them to entertain you." She shifts closer, your knees touching now. "I don't want to be worshipped tonight," she says. "I just want to be seen, not as his or theirs or hers, just mine." You nod. You say nothing. You don't need to, because you feel it too. This weightless space between you where no roles are required, no names are spoken, no history matters. She closes her eyes, just briefly, and when they open, they're softer, not tired, just quieter. "I don't want you to tell me I'm beautiful," she murmurs. "I want you to tell me I was real." And the way she says it, you know she doesn't mean now. She means later, when this is memory, when she's back in a room with mirrors and advisors and pages, scribbling notes on her posture when you alone again, and this moment has turned into something fragile and private and unspeakably precious that when she wants to be remembered as real, you don't speak. You just sit with her, still present. The fire dies down to quiet embers now, and the wind outside the window whistles softly like a lullaby composed just for this night. The palace beyond this room could be 1,000 miles away. It no longer matters. She lays down beside you on the rug, her robe pooling around her like water, her head finding your thigh like it belongs there. You don't flinch. You simply place a hand on her hair, slow and steady, your fingers brushing gently through the strands like you rememorizing every thread. She sighs, not dramatically, not with longing, just the sound of something coming undone. Safely. "I've always wondered," she says softly, "if anyone would ever know the sound I make when I fall asleep." She tilts her head, slightly adjusting her weight without leaving your lap. "Not snoring." She adds with a ghost of a smile, "Just That last breath before the body lets go, that little surrender. You stay quiet, because this right now is what she meant. This is that breath. She closes her eyes, not to seduce, to rest, to be. The room holds the stillness like a secret, the kind no one dares write down because its beauty would disappear under the weight of ink. You feel her breathing slow, you match it, and for a moment, everything else in the world, the lovers, the crowns, the gossip, the history, falls away. There is no audience, no throne, no war, just her and you, and the rhythm of two people who have nothing to prove, only something to feel. You don't know how long you sit there like that. Minutes, hours, time slips, dissolves, becomes irrelevant. Her breathing is slower now, more even, her body softer against yours. One hand rests loosely over her stomach, the other curls beneath her chin. You watch her, not out of fascination, but reverence. Because what you're witnessing isn't performance, it's peace. She doesn't stir. Not even when a distant bell chimes midnight from some forgotten tower. Not when the fire gives its final sigh and leaves only its ghost in the air. You stay until her sleep is deep and untroubled. Then, slowly, gently, you move. Only enough to lay beside her. You don't reach for more, you don't need more. Because this was never about conquest. It was about presence. Witnessing the version of her no one else gets to see. The one no history book will believe. The one that belongs only to this night. The room is hushed now, layered in warmth and shadows. The silence wraps itself around both of you like a promise. And you let your eyes close too. Not to escape, but to remember. The scent of her hair. The sound of her sigh. The way her fingers twitched once in sleep. Like even her dreams didn't want to let go of this moment. You'll carry that with you, long after the sun rises. Long after titles return and duties resume, you'll remember that once. You spent the night with the king's favorite mistress, and she didn't ask for love. Only truth. Only rest. Only you. There's a moment. Just before the world comes back, when everything feels suspended. No titles, no names, not even breath. Just the rhythm of your heart syncing with hers. Two bodies pressed against time, holding on to a silence too sacred to break. She stirs first, not fully awake, just shifting slightly, her shoulder brushing against your arm, her head turning the other way. Her hair spills across the floor like ink, catching a thread of moonlight that hasn't quite let go of the window. You open your eyes, but you don't move, because something about this stillness feels borrowed, like you reliving inside the quiet before a storm and storms in a palace. Like this never asked permission to arrive. She whispers, not facing you. Do you think they'll know? You say nothing. She doesn't press. She rarely does. A minute passes, maybe two, and then she sits up, slow and careful. Her robe slipping from one shoulder, like it's reluctant to leave your warmth. She gathers her hair, twisting it into a loose knot, and glances toward the window. The sun will rise soon, she says, not like a warning, more like a secret she's not sure she wants to keep. She turns to look at you, eyes soft but sharper now, more awake, less hers, more theirs. I always wondered, she adds quietly, what it would feel like to wake up next to someone who didn't want anything from me. You sit up beside her, still saying nothing, because this was never about words. It was about witnessing. She reaches for your hand, just for a moment, and then lets it go. Not because she wants to, but because she has to, because day is coming, and day never leaves room for dreams like this. She moves quietly now, as if sound itself might betray her. The palace beyond the walls begins to stir. A faint clatter of distant trays. The dull creak of morning routines is subtle, but she hears it. You both do. Her robe is wrapped tighter. Her posture shifts. The mistress is returning, but not all at once. She lingers at the hearth, where the fire is only a memory. She brushes her fingers across the ash, as though trying to memorize its warmth, holding it between her fingertips like the last breath of the night. I used to think, she says softly, that surviving meant keeping my heart behind armor. She turns toward you now, eyes searching, voice low. This? Her hand gestures around the room, to the rug where you lay, the embers, the air. This made me feel alive in a way that's dangerous, because it reminds me of what I've buried. You rise, slow and silent, not to leave, to stand with her. She watches you. There's no fear in her expression, but there is weight. The kind of weight that comes from knowing the world will never believe the truth of what happened in this room. And maybe it shouldn't. Maybe this truth is too sacred to survive outside these walls. She steps closer again, not with urgency, but with knowing. There's a version of me, she whispers. The one they paint in rumors. The one who steals and seduces and spins the king like silk around her fingers. Her lips twitch into something between sadness and amusement. They'll write about her, not about this. She touches your chest. Light, brief, but you'll know. She doesn't ask you to remember her. She already knows you will. She walks across the room now, no longer barefoot. Her steps careful, practiced. The kind of movement you only learn after years of walking among knives and chandeliers. You notice the change, but not with sadness, with reverence. Because now you understand what it costs her to live that way, and what it meant that, for one night, she didn't. She stops at a small writing desk, opens a drawer, pulls out a folded scrap of linen. She wraps something in it, carefully, almost too carefully. Then she crosses back to you and presses it into your hand. Don't open it now, she says. You nod. She doesn't explain. She doesn't need to. You'll carry it with you not for the object it holds, but for the way it was given. The way her fingers lingered just a second longer than necessary, like maybe she wanted to say more, but chose silence instead. She steps back, and the air feels thinner, like the room itself knows this is the end. I won't pretend this was nothing, she says, voice calm, but I also won't ask you to stay. She walks toward the door that leads to the private hallway, the one servants use, the one no one's supposed to know she uses. She opens it. Light from a candlelit corridor spills in. She pauses in the doorway. Most people only ever want the parts of me they can name. She turns, meeting your eyes one last time. But you let me exist without labels, without roles. She smiles, small, true. Thank you for that. Then she's gone, and the door closes quietly behind her. You remain still for a while, unsure whether to move or breathe too loudly, as if any motion might erase the echo of her presence from the air. The silence is heavier now, not oppressive but sacred. You look down at the linen she placed in your hand, still folded, still warm. You don't open it. Not yet. Instead, you let your eyes wander the room. It's the same space it was hours ago: velvet curtains, worn rugs, the half-burned firewood in the hearth, but it feels altered, like the walls have shifted just slightly, rearranged by the memory of something too intimate for the history books. You sit for a moment on the edge of the low couch where she once lay. The cushion still holds her shape. You run a hand over it, gently, not to disturb, but to connect, as if through that softness, some part of her lingers. Maybe it does. And then slowly you rise. You cross the room quietly. Every sound is louder now without her. The rustle of your coat, the creak of the old floorboard beneath your boot, the hush of your breath. When you reach the window, you draw the curtain back just enough to glimpse the world beyond. Dawn has begun to bloom, pale blue creeping across the sky, spilling gold into the edges of clouds. The garden is still wet with night. The statues watch the world in stone silence. You feel the shift inside you, that strange ache of something beautiful ending, but also somehow beginning. You let the curtain fall shut again, not because the view outside isn't beautiful, but because what's behind you still feels more real, more human. The memory of her voice, her laughter, the way her fingertips grazed the side of your neck when she leaned too close without realizing. It lives in this room now. And maybe, just maybe, it lives in you too. You walk to the basin in the corner. The water inside is cold now, still as glass. You splash a bit on your face, the shock of it reminding you that you're awake, that this wasn't a dream. You catch your reflection in the mirror. You look the same, but something in your eyes is different, softer, quieter, like a man who has seen the hidden side of history and knows better than to speak it aloud. You reach into your coat pocket and gently slide the folded linen free. You unfold it, careful not to tear the corners. Inside is a pressed flower, tiny, pale, fragrant, a bloom from the palace gardens, one that couldn't have survived the season unless someone had saved it. She had saved it, not for show, not for ceremony, but for you. A piece of proof that something gentle existed here, that something small and lovely had been preserved, even when the world demanded extravagance. You close the linen around it again, folding the edges like you're protecting a secret, because you are. You slip the folded flower back into your coat, near your heart, not to hide it, to carry it. It feels right there, not like a souvenir, but a part of the night itself, still warm, still breathing in its own quiet way, something you'll reach for again, long after memory starts to blur around the edges. You take one last look around the room. The embers have gone completely dark now, and the corners of the chamber are shaded in soft gray. You wonder how many others have passed through here, believing they knew her, touched her, claimed her. But they didn't know this room like you do, now not the way it hummed with silence when she whispered her fears. Not the way the air shifted when she shed her titles like silk falling to the floor. Not the way she looked at you when she didn't need to pretend. You exhale, slow, the kind of breath that clears the space between who you were before and who you are now. And then, without ceremony, you turn toward the door. There's no guard waiting, no servant bowing, no fanfare. Just the sound of your footsteps and the weight of something unspoken in your chest. The hallway is colder than you remember, not just from the chill in the stone, but from the absence of her. It wraps around you differently, now, less like a palace and more like a stage after the curtain falls. The laughter gone, the lights dimmed, only footprints left in the dust. You walk without rushing, because you don't want to reach the end too soon. Each step carries the weight of something final, not regret, not even loss, just the quiet ache of goodbye. As you pass the tall windows, you glance toward the gardens below. A few early workers move between the hedges, unaware that just hours ago, a queen without a crown sat by your side and asked to be remembered. Not for her beauty, not for her role, but for her reality. You descend the back staircase she once used as a secret. Your hand grazes the railing where hers must have rested. And for a moment, you imagine her ahead of you, robe trailing behind, hair unbound, smiling without anyone watching. You don't try to catch up. You let the memory lead. The corridor narrows near the end, leading to a small door hidden behind a velvet curtain. You remember passing it when you first arrived, not realizing where it would lead or what it would mean. Now, you know. You push it open slowly. Beyond it is the edge of the palace grounds. The garden's private exit, masked by roses and climbing ivy. No guards, no eyes. Just a sliver of freedom carved into the architecture of power. You step out into the pale morning. Dew clings to the grass beneath your shoes. The scent of turned soil and fading blossoms lingers in the air. It smells like something ending, something sacred that only blooms once and never again. You walk until the palace fades behind you. Not quickly. Each step is deliberate, as if giving the night space to settle into your bones before the day can take it away. You don't look back, not because you don't want to, but because you know that what you shared wasn't meant for second glances. It was a moment suspended in silk and shadow, a truth without a title, a woman without a mask, a love without a witness. You reach the edge of a narrow path flanked by trim boxwood and a fading trellis of morning glories. The estate is still sleeping in places. You can hear it, the hush before the clatter of carriages, the rustle of courtiers returning to their roles. You pause, because part of you wonders if this is really the end. And part of you knows it isn't. Not really. What happened in that room, under candlelight and silk, will follow you. Not like a ghost, but like a thread stitched into your skin, subtle and permanent. You think of her hands, her voice, the way her words trembled just once when she asked if anyone would ever know the sound she made falling asleep. You know it now, and that sound has changed you. A low breeze lifts the edge of your coat. The linen-wrapped flower still rests there, unmoved. You place a hand over it gently, as if to steady something fragile, because it is, because she was, and somehow, so were you. The path curves slightly toward a grove of trees that shield a last view of the palace. You follow it, one step at a time, until the stone walls are completely out of sight, out of reach, but never out of memory. And never out of memory. The morning sun is soft on your skin now, not yet warm, but full of promise. You stop by a moss-covered bench beneath the tallest tree and sit, not because you're tired, but because the moment asks for stillness. You let the silence settle. Let it stretch. Let it remember. There's no need to rush into the day. No need to pretend you've left her behind. Because you haven't. Not really. She's with you. In the way your shoulders relax in quiet places. In the way you listen when someone speaks their truth softly. In the way you'll look at velvet now, and candlelight, and gardens that bloom in secret. She gave you a version of herself that history will never know. And in return, you gave her a night without expectation. That kind of exchange doesn't fade. It roots itself inside you. Deep, quiet, steady. You lean back, eyes closed, the pressed flower warm over your chest. And for one last moment, you remember not her title, not her legend, but her truth. The way she looked at you, like you were the only thing in the world that wasn't trying to use her. And the way, just once, you saw her smile. Not for power, not for show, but for peace. The story ends here. But what it gave you, that stays, always. The road beyond the palace is unfamiliar, not in the sense that you've never walked it, but because everything looks different now. The stones beneath your boots feel softer, the sky more fragile. The sounds of the waking world don't seem to match the rhythm of your heartbeat. You should feel like yourself again, but you don't, because the man who entered that room is not the same one who left it. You reach a small wooden gate tucked into the far edge of the gardens, the kind that servants use, hidden behind ivy and disrepair. You've never noticed it before. She must have, though. She would know every hidden door, every place the palace pretends not to see. You hesitate before touching it, not because you're unsure of the way forward, but because you know, once you pass through, there's no going back. Not to that room, not to her, not to the moment when the world paused long enough to let two people breathe outside their names. You push the gate open, and just like that, you're outside the walls. The air hits different here, less perfumed, more real. You take your first step beyond the palace grounds, and for the first time in what feels like forever, you're alone. The path winds downhill gently, lined by overgrown hedges and wild poppies that sway in the early morning breeze. You hear birdsong now, not the choreographed kind from palace aviaries, but the wild, messy music of freedom. Every sound feels richer, every breath feels deeper, but beneath it all, there's a strange kind of weight in your chest, a softness that doesn't ache, but lingers like the warmth left behind by a hand recently held. You reach a quiet stream. Its water trickles over smooth stones, reflecting fragments of morning sky. You kneel beside it. Cup a little water in your hands and splash your face. The cold stings just enough to remind you that you rehear. You look up at your own reflection, broken slightly by the ripples, and in those blurred shapes, you see not just yourself, but her. The way she watched you when you weren't looking. The quiet things she didn't say, but let you feel anyway. You touch the inside of your coat, the linen's still there. The pressed flower inside hasn't shifted. You wonder if she's awake now, if she's watching the same sky, if her fingers touched her lips and remembered yours, or if she's already disappeared behind velvet and etiquette again, her mask perfectly placed. You'll never know, and somehow, that's exactly what makes it real. You stand again, slower this time, not from fatigue, but from intention. There's no one around you now. No marble columns, no watching courtiers, no muffled footsteps down royal halls. Just the sound of gravel underfoot, the whisper of grass brushing your coat, and that persistent sense that something sacred happened, and it was never meant to be recorded. You keep walking. Fields stretch ahead, dotted with early morning mist and fences that lean slightly, as if they've grown tired of holding up appearances. It's strange how freedom looks less grand than the palace, but feels more profound. You pass a weathered milestone along the road, its lettering worn from time, the kind of stone travelers touch as they move between cities and fates. You touch it too, just a finger across the surface. And for some reason, that touch feels like a promise. Not to go back, but to carry it forward. The memory, the night, the softness. You don't need to tell anyone about it. You wouldn't even know how the details would sound too fragile, too surreal. No one would believe how quiet it was when she let herself fall asleep beside you, or how loud the silence became when she left. You reach into your coat and place a hand over the linen-wrapped flower again. Still warm, still real. The road leads you to a village small, quiet. The kind where no one looks twice, unless you're bleeding or blessed. You step carefully down the main path where the baker's windows glow with warmth and early risers, sweet doorsteps still damp with dew. No one here knows who you are, and more importantly, no one here knows who she is. She's not a name here. Not a scandal, not a mistress, just a woman who once whispered to you that she liked the way the rain sounded on glass. You pause outside a shop with fogged windows. Inside, a young girl arranges ribbons by color blues, whites, deep plum. Her hands move slowly, like the act of choosing matters. You think of the ribbon tied around her wrist last night, nearly slipping off as she reached for you in the dark. It had matched nothing she wore. Maybe that was the point, a rebellion wrapped in silk. You keep walking past doorways and shutters, cats curled on window ledges, a horse half asleep near a trough. The world goes on, unaware of what happened behind palace walls. But inside you, it's not just going on, it's expanding. Like the moment you stepped out of the palace was less of an ending and more of an invitation to live differently. You leave the village behind as the sun climbs higher, its warmth brushing your back like a farewell that doesn't need words. The road becomes a ribbon again, curling through trees over soft hills beside old stone walls covered in moss. And for the first time in hours, you let yourself smile, not because of what happened, but because it happened to you. You were there. You were seen not as a subject or a stranger, or someone passing through history unnoticed, but as something rare, someone chosen. You reach a quiet ridge overlooking the valley. Below, a river curls like silver thread, catching light between the reeds. You sit on a flat rock near the edge and close your eyes. Her voice returns not as words, but as feeling the soft way. She said your name like it didn't belong to anyone else, the moment she rested her head against your shoulder. Not because she was tired, but because she wanted to. You breathe in, hold it, let it go. What happened between you wasn't loud, wasn't written down. It won't be passed on in letters or portraits or poems, but it doesn't need to be, because you were there, and that's enough. A breeze moves gently across the ridge, rustling the grass around you. It's the kind of breeze that carries memory in it. Scent softness, the hush of candlelight echoing through time. You open your eyes and watch the river curve away for a moment. You wonder where she is, not just physically but emotionally, whether she too is holding on to something from that night, whether she feels it beneath the silks and secrets, whether it changed her the way it changed you. You'll never know. And that is okay, because it is not the knowing that matters It's the feeling you run your fingers over the edge of the rock, tracing invisible shapes, half lost in thought. You think of the way she looked at you when she didn't think you were watching. Eyes not searching for anything, just resting. Just being. You've seen portraits of her before, hung in golden frames, dressed in pearls and posture. Always distant, always divine. But none of them looked like that. None of them captured the way she breathed when she laughed too hard, or how she looked at the fire like she wanted it to tell her a story she hadn't heard yet. Those moments? They're yours, only yours, and no artist will ever come close. You stand once more, brushing the dust from your coat, the flower still resting near your heart like a secret prayer. You walk along the ridge until the path narrows, then weans into the woods tall. Quiet trees rising on either side, their branches weaving a canopy that dapples the earth in shifting light. It feels like a place untouched by the world, a place time forgot, which makes it feel familiar. You think of her again, how she said the woods used to be her favorite escape as a child. How, long before the court and the king, she would sneak away to climb trees, to chase the wind, to feel small in a world that didn't ask her to perform. You wonder what it would have been like to know her then, before the rooms with too many mirrors, before the whispers behind fans and curtains, before she became a name whispered in scandal, in poetry, in envy. You walk slower now, your hands brushing the bark as you pass, as if the trees might remember her too. And maybe they do, because some part of her still lingers here, not the version history painted, but the one who held your hand with both of hers and asked, without words, not to be forgotten. You couldn't, even if you tried. The woods open gently into a meadow wide, sun-washed, quiet. You pause at its edge. The grass tall around your knees, the sky stretched wide above. There's no sound here, except the hush of breeze and the hum of unseen insects. It feels like the kind of place where nothing has ever gone wrong. You walk to the center and sit down, not with ceremony, just peace. Your fingers toy with a blade of grass, your gaze drifts upward, and then, for no particular reason, you remember the moment she reached for your face in the dark, the way her thumb paused just beneath your eye, soft and still. She didn't speak. She didn't have to. It was the kind of touch that asked nothing and offered everything. You didn't expect her to remember you, and maybe she won't, but that doesn't make it less real. It makes it more. You lie back, arms spread, the pressed flower tucked beneath your ribs now, above. The clouds drift like slow ships across the sky. You watch them without urgency. You are not where you were, but you're not where you started either. And between those two places, something inside you changed. The clouds drift slowly above, and you let your eyes trace their soft edges. For the first time since you left the palace, you don't feel the need to move. The world isn't demanding anything of you. It's simply letting you be. You think of her laugh again. The quiet one, the one that slipped out when she wasn't trying to impress anyone. That's the sound that stays with you most, not the whispers, not the silk. The laugh, you wonder how many people heard it. You wonder how many of them deserve to. You did, even if it was only once. A bird flutters nearby, then perches on a rock a few feet away, tilting its head like it's trying to understand you. Or maybe like it recognizes something different about you now. The way you carry yourself. The way you carry her. She left no mark that history will note, but you know. And that knowing becomes a kind of quiet armor. You close your eyes again, arms resting loosely at your sides, and you breathe. Just breathe. Letting the air fill you, steady you, soften you. You don't need to do anything else. You've already lived something rare. The sun is higher now, casting golden threads through the meadow grass. You sit up, slowly stretching limbs that feel both rested and worn, like they've traveled further than distance can measure. You place your hand over your chest. One last time, the linen is still there, still pressed close, still carrying a night no one else will ever know. You rise to your feet, turn gently toward the path at the meadow's far edge, and start walking, not away from something, not towards something, just forward. The world will call her many things, but you'll remember her only as she truly was. Not a title, not a story, not even a secret. Just a person brave enough to be real, even if only for a night. And that's more than most ever give. You disappear into the trees once again, but lighter now. Not because you've forgotten her, but because you've remembered yourself. The part of you she saw, the part she held, the part that somehow she gave back stronger. You walk, the wind at your back, the memory at your side, and history. It can write what it wants, but you live the truth. The forest is quieter now, not because the birds have gone or the wind has stilled, but because something inside you has slowed, softened. It's not silence you carry with you. It's calm, the kind that follows something sacred. You walk with your hands tucked in your coat, shoulders relaxed, the pressed flower like a second heartbeat near your ribs. There's no rush. No reason to be anywhere but here. Up ahead, a clearing opens. There's an old stone bench at its center, half covered in ivy. The kind that looks like it's been waiting centuries for someone to sit. You do, and as you lower yourself onto the cold stone, you feel a sense of return, not to a place, but to a part of yourself you didn't know was missing. The part that listens deeply, the part that remembers gently, the part that loved without needing to be told how. You rest your elbows on your knees. Looking at your hands, they don't look different, but they feel different. They've held history now, not the kind in books, but the kind that breathes. You tilt your head back, letting your eyes trace the sky through the branches. The leaves sway slowly, like they're keeping time with your breath. You don't know how long you sit there. It doesn't matter. Nothing about this moment asks to be measured. Your thoughts drift to the space between you and her, not the physical space, but the one that exists now, carved gently from memory. It's not empty. It's full of little things, glances, shared silences, a single touch held a little longer than needed. You wonder if she's thinking of you too, but not out of longing, out of recognition, as if some small part of her knows she gave something away last night, and that it wasn't taken, but held. You reach into your coat again and pull out the linen-wrapped flower. You unfold it carefully. The petals are still soft, though the edges are beginning to curl. It won't last forever. Nothing does. But that doesn't make it less worth keeping. You hold it up to the light, and for a moment, it glows. You wrap the flower again and tuck it back close to your chest. Not to hide it, but to let it rest. The trail curves gently and brings you to a shallow stream. The water is clear, slow-moving, dappled with morning light. You crouch beside it, watching the current twist around smooth stones, your reflection flickering just beneath the surface. It startles you, a little, the softness in your face, like someone who's just woken from a very old dream. You dip your fingers in. The water is cold, but not sharp. It feels like something that's never been rushed, something that's always known how to wait. You cup your hands and lift the water to your face, letting it fall in rivulets down your skin. It's not about cleansing, it's about remembering. She once told you that royalty never washes away anything. It just layers over. But you're not royalty, you're real. And so was she with you. That's the difference no one will write about. But it's the one you'll never forget. You rise from the stone bench and walk deeper into the clearing, letting your fingers skim the tops of the grass. The earth here feels different under your feet. Like it's listening, like it remembers. And maybe it does. Maybe memory isn't just something the mind holds. Maybe it lives in the places we slow down, in the pauses between words, in the way our bodies soften when we feel safe. You step onto a narrow path, the sun now trailing golden fingers through the canopy. Everything feels wrapped in amber. Not quite morning, not yet noon, just the in-between. Just like you touch a tree as you pass it, the bark cool beneath your fingertips. You wonder how many others have walked this path. Lovers, strangers, messengers, maybe even kings. But none of them walked it with what you carry now. You don't feel important. You feel present. and that's rarer. You sit by the stream a little longer, elbows on knees, hands trailing in the water. There's no rush now. The world will spin whether you move or stay still. You think of her words, the ones not meant for court or ceremony, the ones only you heard. Soft, unguarded things, like when she said she didn't want to be remembered for who she was at court, but for who she became when the doors were closed, when the jewels came off, when her voice dropped to a whisper, when she asked what it meant to be wanted, not for her beauty or her power, but just because, and you did. You wanted her the way water wants the shore, not to claim it, but to kiss it again and again and again. You leaned back onto the grass, letting your body settle into the earth, feeling the cool dampness against your spine. The pressed flower warms slowly against your chest. She's not here, but you are, and that's where she lives now. Not in the palace, not in the papers, but in you. You close your eyes and listen to the birds overhead, to the rustle of leaves, to the water winding its way around the stones. But mostly, you listen to yourself, not the thoughts racing or the doubts whispering, just the stillness. It's strange how loud peace can be when you finally hear it. You remember how she moved in silence that night, not because she had nothing to say, but because she knew that some things are louder when left unspoken, like the way she exhaled before leaning into you, or how she waited for you to speak first, not out of coyness, but out of reverence. She wasn't playing a role, she was choosing a moment, and she chose you. That truth settles into your chest the way twilight settles over a field slow, certain, unannounced. You let it in. Not as a possession, but as a presence, a part of her, still walking beside you, even as the distance grows. You rise slowly from the stream's edge, the grass damp against your palms as you steady yourself. A path appears on the other side, less worn, more wild, but it pulls you forward with the quiet promise of somewhere new. Your steps are slower now, not tired, intentional, as if the ground beneath you deserves your attention. Each leaf that crunches, each branch that brushes your shoulder, feels like part of the conversation that hasn't ended yet. It's not a goodbye you carry with you. It's a continuation. You step over a fallen log, duck beneath a tangle of vines, and find yourself in a grove surrounded by soft moss and pale wildflowers. The air smells like something untouched, like secrets that never needed to be hidden. You kneel there, for no reason but to feel close to the earth. And as you do, you remember how she looked at the stars. Not the way royals are trained to look, posed, distant, poetic, but the way children do, with awe, with questions, with wonder that doesn't need answers. You remember that look. You hope she still finds it. Somewhere, you lie back among the moss, letting the softness cradle your spine, your fingers resting loosely at your sides. Overhead, the trees sway gently, letting sunlight trickle down in speckled patterns that dance across your face. It feels like being held, not by someone else, by the world itself. And maybe that's what she was searching for all along, not admiration, not attention, not escape, just to feel held. You understand her better now, not through her lineage or the scandals written about her, but through the way she softened in your presence, through the way her voice trembled. Not from fear, but from finally letting go of the performance. No audience, no script, just breath, just closeness. You close your eyes again, letting the memory settle into the spaces between your ribs. You don't hold it too tightly. You don't need to. Some moments are so real, they never leave. They just change shape. You stay there, in that grove, for what might be minutes or hours. Time loses its edges. There's no need to measure it, because nothing is expected of you here, not anymore. You think about how history will remember her. A mistress, a scandal, a footnote beneath a king's name. But that's not the version you knew. You knew the one who paused before speaking, who looked at her own reflection like it belonged to someone else, who held your hand like it was the first real thing she'd touched in weeks. You knew the version that cried without apology, the one who didn't need a throne to feel worthy, just a moment, just a connection, just you, and for a night, She had all three. You wonder if she'd try to forget it, if she'll bury it beneath silk and duty and all the careful masks she wears so well. But part of you hopes she can't. Part of you hopes it follows her, the way her memory follows you, not loudly, just enough to remind her that once she was seen. You rise one last time, brushing the moss from your coat, your body moving slowly, reverently, like someone who's just left the chapel. The forest thins ahead, light stretching wider with each step. You're not returning to where you began. This is somewhere entirely new. And so are you. At the edge of the trees, you turn to look back, not in longing, but in acknowledgement. Not everything needs to be held to be honored. Some things are meant to pass through us, like light through lace, leaving a pattern we don't even realize is there until years later. She was never yours to keep, but she was yours for a moment, and that moment lives in you now. You walk into the sunlight, the world opening again around you, somewhere behind you. The night you shared becomes a memory. Somewhere ahead, history continues without you. But in this space, this breath, between what was and what will be, you carry a story that no one else will ever tell. And maybe that's the point. The truest things are rarely written. They're simply felt. The road ahead is quiet. It doesn't whine dramatically or stretch towards some grand estate. It just unfolds soft and steady beneath your feet. And that feels right. Not everything meaningful needs a grand ending. Some just need a gentle one. You walk without urgency, letting the warmth of the sun soak into your shoulders, letting the memories trail behind you like the hem of a robe. There's no weight in them anymore. Just warmth. Just the echo of a night that asked nothing of you but presence. The kind of night that rewrites what you think love is. Not declarations, not promises. Just ... Being chosen in silence, you pass a grove of lavender, and the scent hits you like a whisper you didn't expect. It pulls her back again, just for a breath. The way her hair carried that smell. The way she pressed your hand to her chest without needing to explain anything. You stop. You breathe it in, not to hold on, but to remember that it happened, and it was real. You follow the path until it leads to a stone bridge. Small, arched, moss-covered. The kind most people wouldn't notice. But you stop. You run your hand along the edge. It's warm where the sun has touched it, cool where it hides in shadow. A field opens before you, wide, golden, and humming with the quiet kind of life that doesn't ask to be seen. Bees drift lazily between blooms. The breeze plays with the tall grass. You move through it like a whisper, careful not to disturb anything that doesn't want to be disturbed. You're not walking towards something now. You're walking with something, with the night that reshaped you, with the stillness she gave you, with the version of yourself that finally listened. You think back to the way she looked at you just before sleep took her. Not as a mistress, not as a secret, but as someone real. Someone who didn't have to be dazzling or perfect. Just there. That gaze lingers in your mind longer than her touch, because touches fade. But to be seen, truly seen, is the rarest kind of intimacy. And you'll carry it longer than any kiss. It reminds you of her. The parts of her that the world saw, and the parts only you did. You cross the bridge slowly, the water beneath barely moving, like it's holding its breath. And you wonder how many secrets have passed over this same spot. How many lovers walked it in silence. How many goodbyes were whispered just at its peak. When you reach the other side, you pause, not because you're unsure, but because you know what waits ahead isn't a destination. It's a return to yourself, to the version of you that was changed by something tender, something true, something fleeting. You touch your chest again. The pressed linen still rests beneath your coat, still there, still safe. You walk on. The bridge disappears behind you, but the memory doesn't. You find a quiet place at the edge of the field, where a lone tree offers a patch of shadow. You sit beneath it, your back resting against its trunk, your legs stretched into the sun. The breeze wraps around you like a memory, soft, familiar, unannounced, and again, you think of her. Not in the way the world does, not as a whispered scandal or a painted beauty, but as a person. The way her laugh cracked through silence like it wasn't allowed but didn't care. The way she clutched the sheets when she dreamed. The way her voice broke. Just a little. When she told you it had been years since anyone asked how she was sleeping. She wasn't meant to belong to you, and maybe that's why the moment mattered. Because it wasn't about forever. It was about now. Two people meeting in the quiet middle of their stories. Without expectation. Without a script. Without anyone watching. Just the truth of two bare hearts, asking nothing, offering everything. You lie back under the tree, letting your body fully rest for the first time in hours. The sky above is a soft wash of blue, with wisps of clouds that seem to drift without direction. Like thoughts you've let go of, like questions that no longer need answers. Your hand rests gently over your chest, where the linen still presses against your heart. It isn't about the object. It never was. It's about the moment it holds. That moment in the bath, when the world felt far away, and the only thing real was the warmth of her skin near yours. The steam curling between your breaths. The hush of her voice as she told you that she felt safe. You didn't respond with poetry. You didn't have to. Your presence was enough. You were enough. And that stillness, that gift, echoes even now. Long after her footsteps disappeared down marble halls. She may be gone, but the part of her that met you there, that part stays, quiet, undemanding, honest. The sun shifts slowly, casting golden slants of light through the branches above. Shadows lengthen, and with them, a sense of closure settles gently into your bones. Not the kind that ends something, the kind that blesses it. You sit up, brushing grass from your clothes, not hurried, not heavy, just ... Present. You take one last look at the field, not because you'll forget it, but because you won't. And then, like a whisper in return, the wind shifts again, carrying a note of rose and lavender past your cheek. It's not real, you know that, but it doesn't matter. Because for a second, she's there again, in the scent, in the stillness, in the space beside you that no one else could fill. Even now, you smile, small and sure. It's not sadness, it's not longing. It's gratitude for being chosen, even briefly, for being remembered, even if silently, for being part of a night that history will never know, but that you'll carry for the rest of your life. You walk again, this time without a destination, just the rhythm of your steps on the earth. The air brushing past you like a familiar hand. There's nothing left to chase, nothing left to hold tighter than memory. And yet, the memory doesn't ache. It soothes because it was never stolen. It was given, freely, willingly, in a night that asked nothing but honesty in return. No politics, no expectations, just two people, tangled in time, who happened to find each other before the morning took them back. You wonder where she is now. If her face is powdered and distant again. If her laugh is hidden beneath measured glances. If she still feels your hand when she closes her eyes at night. But then, you stop wondering, because it's not your place to ask more of her than she gave. And she gave you everything she could. The trees part once more, and you find yourself on a quiet hill overlooking the palace far in the distance. From here, it looks small, delicate, almost like a model someone built to remember a time that never really belonged to them. You sit down at the top of the hill and watch. Windows flicker with movement, servants scurry, drapes shift in the breeze. But it's all so far away now, so distant from the warmth of her skin against yours. The breathless laughter in the bath, the way she held your gaze like it was a lifeline. You realize something then. The night you shared wasn't an escape. It was a return to something truer than titles, deeper than scandal, older than the walls of that palace. It was two people reclaiming their humanness, their softness, their right to be held without judgment. And even from this distance, you feel it again, not in memory, but in presence, still alive, still yours. You lie back in the grass, arms folded behind your head, staring up at a sky that's beginning to shift. The blue deepens, the gold fades. Evening is not far. And still you stay because some endings aren't to really endings. They re-acknowledgements that what happened mattered, that it changed you. Not in some dramatic way. You want to speak differently or walk through life with a crown of insight. But something in you feels warmer, softer, as if the world has edges you hadn't noticed before. And now you run your fingers along them with care. You think about what you'll tell others. Probably nothing. This isn't a story for the world. It's a story for you, for the quiet nights when you need to remember that closeness exists, that tenderness is possible, that even the most untouchable people sometimes just need to be touched gently. Not with hands, but with presence. You gave her that, and she gave it back. The wind shifts one last time. You sit up, brushing grass from your back, and look toward the horizon. The palace is no longer visible, hidden now behind trees. Distance, time, it doesn't matter. You don't need to see it. You already lived what mattered inside it. You rise, slowly, carefully, as if waking from a dream that asked you to be gentle on your way out. The path ahead is quiet. You follow it not out of duty, not out of desire, but simply because it's there, and you're ready. You carry nothing in your hands. But you are not empty. You carry the bathwater warmth of her laugh, the weight of her head on your shoulder, the silence that passed between you saying more than words ever could. And you carry the truth that even history has most carefully painted portraits missed the softness between the brushstrokes, but you saw it, you touched it, you lived it, and now you walk forward, not away, not back, just forward, a little slower, a little fuller, because now you know what it feels like to be chosen in secret, remembered in silence, and held in the space no history book will ever write. And maybe that's the best kind of history, the kind only you remember. The path curves through a quiet orchard, now rows of fruit trees standing like sentinels in the warm dusk. Their branches stretch overhead heavy with ripening plums and apricots, casting soft shadows on the ground. You trail your fingers along the rough bark of a low branch, grounding yourself in something simple, real, earthy. The scent here is different, richer, heavier, like the air itself is remembering something. And maybe it is. Maybe the earth beneath your feet still carries echoes of steps that once danced here, stolen glances that bloomed beneath moonlight, laughter too intimate for daylight. You find a stone bench tucked between two trees and sit, not out of tiredness, but out of reverence, because this part of the journey feels sacred, not in a grand, holy way, but in a deeply human one, the kind of sacred that only comes from being seen completely and still being held gently. You let your head fall back and look up through the canopy. Light filters in like lace. It is beautiful. But it is not the trees you see. It is her stillness, shaped like a woman pressed forever into your memory. The orchard hums around you. Bees in the distance, a low rustle of branches. The creak of something old settling into the ground. You close your eyes and breathe in the scent of crushed grass and ripened fruit. But beneath it all is something else. A trace of rosewater and warmth. The ghost of her perfume. It shouldn't still be there. And yet, it is. Like the memory is no longer just in your mind, but stitched into the world around you. You think about the way her hair curled at the ends when it dried. How she spoke with her hands when she wasn't being washed. The way she exhaled like it was a confession when she said, "No one has ever waited for me." And how you didn't ask anything of her except the truth. And how she gave it not in declarations, but in the way her hand rested on your chest as she fell asleep. The way her laughter softened when it was just for you. The way she let herself be. That was the miracle. Not that she loved you, but that she trusted you enough to be real. The sun dips lower now, casting everything in gold. The orchard seems to glow from within, as if the trees themselves remember who stood among them once. Not a mistress, not a monarch's shadow, but a woman, flesh and feeling, laughter and longing. You walk again. Each step feels deliberate, not heavy but sacred, as if your feet know that this ground has been made holy by the weight of your shared silence. A small stream cuts across the edge of the grove. You kneel beside it, cupping cool water in your hands, splashing your face. The sensation is sharp, but kind, like truth, like honesty, like her. You look at your reflection in the rippling water. You almost don't recognize the person staring back, not because they've changed on the outside, but because they've remembered something they'd forgotten, what it feels like to be chosen, not for status, not for utility, but for presence. You didn't ask for it. You didn't need to. She saw you. And now, everything feels different. The air, the path, yourself. You follow the stream as it winds toward a low wooden bridge. It's simple, worn by weather and time, but it holds, like so many quiet things do. You cross it slowly, one hand trailing along the rail, your steps soft, respectful. The other side opens to a meadow. Wildflowers scatter like paint across a canvas. Careless, beautiful, free. You stop and take it in, all of it. The way the petals catch the breeze, the faint hum of crickets starting their song, the way the last light of day folds everything into a hush. It reminds you of her voice at its softest. The way she said your name when no one else was around to hear it. The way she smiled when she thought no one was watching you. Step into the meadow. Not to pick anything, not to claim it, just to be part of it. And in that moment, you understand she wasn't to an escape from reality. She was a return to it, to the parts of life that don't perform, that just are, like this meadow, like you, like the night you shared. You lie back in the grass, arms spread, letting the earth hold you without question. The sky above is deepening now, moving from soft blue to dusky lavender. One star appears, faint at first, then brighter, like it's gathering courage. You think about that, about the courage it took for her to let you see the parts of herself no one else was allowed to touch. Not her skin, but her silence, her contradictions, her truth. There's something sacred in that kind of vulnerability, something you don't speak of, not because it's shameful, but because it's rare. And rare things don't need explaining. You reach into your coat and pull out the pressed flower she left behind. The petals are dry now, but they still carry a ghost of color. You turn it in your fingers, slow and careful. This is not a token. This is a witness to the night the world forgot, to a version of her no history book would dare include, to a version of you that only she ever saw. You close your eyes, and the meadow breathes with you. You let the pressed flower rest over your heart, not tucked away, not hidden, just there, where it belongs. The breeze grazes your cheek, soft as her fingertips, and for a moment, it feels like she's beside you again, not as memory, but as presence. You don't speak. There's nothing to say. Words would only narrow what the moment holds, because some connections don't need dialogue. They live in stillness, in breath, in proximity. You remember how she sighed after laughing, like joy always came with a little ache, how she stared at the ceiling after telling you something real, like she was afraid. She'd broken the spell, but you never looked away, not once, and that's what she remembered. Not your face, but your stillness. You're staying the rare kind of quiet that doesn't to fill space. It honors it. You open your eyes, and the stars have multiplied. You don't feel alone, not even a little, because something of her stayed. And something of you went with her. A soft rustle in the grass draws your attention. It's just the wind, maybe a small animal. But for a moment, your heart lifts, as if she might appear again, barefoot in the twilight, hair undone, smile half-formed and full of mischief. But she doesn't tea, and still the lift remains because she doesn't. Tea have to return for you to remember what she gave you, a glimpse, a moment, a truth. That intimacy, ice and always physical. Sometimes it is a shared silence on a staircase. Sometimes it's the sound of your name spoken without expectation. Sometimes it's choosing to sit beside someone without asking why they're quiet. And sometimes it's a bath at midnight, with only candlelight and courage between you. You smile without meaning to, because you didn't just witness her softness, you earned it. Not through charm or status, but through presence. Through being the one person in a palace full of performance who asked for nothing but what was real. And that kind of memory, it doesn't fade. It lingers. You stand again, slowly, your body warmed by stillness and moonlight. The meadow stretches around you like a memory left open. Each flower, each blade of grass feels like it knows something. Not about history, but about herstory, the one only you carry. There are footsteps. You remember not loud ones, bare feet across marble soft steps on plush rugs. The hush of movement designed not to disturb, but with you, she didn't to hide. She entered with all her fears, her fire, her quiet hungers, and you led her not like a host, but like a mirror, and in return, she showed you something rare. Not just her vulnerability, but your own. You realize now this wasn't a night that changed your life. It was a night that returned it to you, not rewritten, not embellished, just returned gently, truthfully, like she handed it back cleaned of dust and storylines and said, "Here, this is yours again." You step out of the meadow and back onto the path. Your movement's slower now, but sure, the night has fully arrived, draping itself over the land like a silk curtain. Stars blink above, familiar yet untouched. You walk without needing direction. Your body remembers where to go, not toward a place, but toward peace. You pass an old marble statue tucked in ivy. You recognize the figure, a queen from long ago, carved to look noble, distant, untouchable. You stop and look at her face, cold, perfect, lifeless. It strikes you. This is the version history preserved, but not the version you knew, not the laughter, not the warmth, not the humanity, not the way her lips curved when she found something genuinely funny, not the way her eyes widened when she heard music through a wall, not the way she said your name like it was a secret she wanted to keep. You look away from the statue, because now you carry the truth, the one they lull never carve in stone. You make your way back toward the palace grounds, not to return, but to see it one last time beneath the stars. The windows glow faintly now, the kind of soft, flickering light that belongs to secrets. You stop beneath a tree, just at the edge of the formal garden, and look up. You wonder what she's doing, not as a mistress, not as a name in someone else's story, but as herself. Maybe she's brushing her hair, slowly, the way she did before sleep. Maybe she's staring at the ceiling, reliving every word, every glance, or maybe she's not thinking at all, just breathing, existing, letting the quiet do what it does best. Hold her. You press the flower to your lips, then return it to your coat, not out of ritual, but out of love, and you whisper into the night, not to her, not to anyone, just to the stillness. Thank you. Because no one else will say it, not the books, not the portraits, not the men who write histories in ink, but live without grace. You say it for her, and in doing so you say it for yourself too. The air is cooler now, but it doesn't bite. It embraces. You walk slowly, the soles of your shoes brushing against gravel paths and damp moss, the kind only nighttime knows. The palace recedes behind you, not like a fading dream, but like a chapter quietly closing. You don't rush. Goodbyes deserve time. And this one, even if unspoken, is the kind you will carry for the rest of your life. Not the spectacle of it, but the weight, the warmth, the stillness that lingers long after the candles go out. Ahead, a row of tall trees stands like a corridor of memories, each trunk steady, each shadow familiar. You walk through them like you re-walking through yourself, through every version of you that existed before her touch, and the version now stitched together by her absence. You don't feel lost. You feel held, not by her, but by the night she gave you, the kind of night that doesn't fade at dawn, the kind that becomes you. A clearing opens just ahead, and in its center, a small fountain, cracked with age, its marble chipped, but the water still flows. You sit beside it, letting the sound fill the space between your thoughts. A soft, trickling rhythm, calming, familiar. You remember how her voice dipped when she said your name for the last time. Not heavy, not sad, just sure, like she knew it would echo long after the moment passed. You lean over the fountain and catch your reflection again. Not the same one from earlier, There's more gentleness now, more knowing in the eyes, a stillness in the jaw. You stare for a moment, trying to decide if she would have recognized you like this. And then you realize she did. That's why she let you in, not because you asked, but because she saw the part of you that wasn't performing, the part of you that simply stayed. And now, that version of you remains, even without her, especially without her, because the real gift wasn't the night, it was the awakening. You lie back again, this time on a bench worn smooth by weather and waiting overhead. The stars shimmer like scattered memory, no patterns, no constellations, just light doing what it does. Existing, it doesn't. T reach for meaning. It doesn't beg to be understood. It just is, and somehow that feels like her too. You think of the things she didn't say, the pauses, the glances, the inhale before the truth. You used to wonder what she meant. Now you understand. She didn't want to be translated. She wanted to be felt. And you did every moment, every silence, every flicker of doubt and wonder and hope. She never asked you to promise anything. She never needed you to fix or save or name her. She just wanted to be seen, and you gave her that in return. She gave you something even rarer, a moment unburdened by history, not rewritten, just quietly, beautifully unwritten. You sit up slowly, not because you're in a rush, but because the night is asking you to witness its ending, not to mourn it, just to notice it. A breeze moves through the trees, carrying with it the faintest scent of jasmine and old paper, like memory and dream have merged. You think about all the stories that will never be told, not because they weren't real, but because they didn't serve a narrative, a crown, a war, a man. But this story, yours, doesn't need a place in textbooks to matter. It matters because it lived, because it was. And as you stand, brushing sleep and stars from your shoulders, you understand what she gave you wasn't just a night or a memory. It was permission to feel, to see, to soften. You turn back, one last time, to the path behind you, not to retrace it, but to bow to it. Because that version of you, the one who stood with her in candlelight, with bare truth between you, still walks those halls, and always will. The road before you is quiet, no fanfare, no destination, just a stretch of soft earth and fading moonlight. And that's enough. You walk it without hurry, without story, just presence. You carry no letters, no keepsakes, no grand declarations. Only the weight of a night so intimate it doesn't need retelling. The kind of night that seeps into your bones, changes the way you listen, the way you look at silence, the way you say someone's name when no one else is around. You stop by a cluster of wild violets blooming where no garden was planted, a soft rebellion against order. You kneel, not to pick them, but to inhale, to remember that some beauty isn't meant to be possessed. It's meant to be noticed and left behind, a memory with roots. And she is not a ghost. She's not an ending. She's the imprint of what can happen when two people meet beneath the surface of roles and simply see no witness, no script, just two souls unmasked. You continue walking until the path fades into tall grass and dew-damp earth. There's no signpost, no gate, just the soft permission to go forward. You don't question it. You don't need to, because this journey was never about arrival. It was about presence, and now that presence is part of you. In the way you slow down when someone speaks, in the way you notice how candlelight hits a collarbone in the way. You allow silence to stretch without panic. You reach a low stone wall, the edge of the estate. You sit not because there's more to do, but because you've done it all, you've felt, you've seen, you've been changed. You press your hand against your chest, not for drama, but to feel the echo, the one she left in you, a quiet, beating yes to everything that passed between you. You smile, not because you're happy, but because you're whole, and that, more than anything else, is the point. You lie back in the grass, the stars slowly blinking you into rest. There's no rush to sleep, just a gentle unraveling of thought. Your eyes begin to flutter, but you fight to keep them open just a little longer. Not because you were afraid to lose this moment, but because it's been so rare to feel this at peace. And her, she's not far. She's not behind. She's within, in the softness of your breath, in the slow turn of your head against the pillow, in the way you finally let your body feel safe in stillness. Somewhere she's asleep too, maybe dreaming of wild violets, or of laughter in the bath, or of that one night she didn't have to pretend. And maybe, just maybe, she remembers you with the same quiet reverence because she didn't to just let you see her. She let you hold her truth, and that, even if never spoken again, is love the kind that whispers, not declares, the kind that stays. You begin to drift now, not out of exhaustion, but surrender, not giving up, giving in, to rest, to memory, to the soft truth that not all beautiful things are meant to last forever. Some are meant to arrive, shift you quietly, and leave behind a better version of yourself. The night deepens. The wind hushes, the stars lean closer, and still no one knows what happened between. Book records it, no song sings of it, but you do. You know the weight of her fingers, the rhythm of her breath, the curve of her smile when it wasn't being watched. You know how her voice softened when she said, "Stay." And you stayed not as a witness, but as a choice. That's the kind of story history doesn't know how to hold. But you do. You hold it gently night after night until sleep folds over you. Like silk, you were almost gone now. Not lost. Just deeper. Deeper into that place where dreams aren't fantasies, but extensions of memory. And in that space, she waits. Not as a queen, not as a mistress, but as a woman who was known. She sits beside you again, just like before, not needing to speak. Her presence is enough. The warmth of her skin, the brush of her shoulder, the way she exists without apology. You remember how she laughed, not delicately, but freely. You remember how she listened, not politely, but completely. You remember how she looked at you, not with expectation, but with recognition. And in return, you gave her something no court ever could. A moment without performance, a night without role, a version of herself untouched by judgment or duty or history. That is where your mind settles now, not on what was taken, but on what was given. Your breathing slows, your body sinks, and the world recedes into shadow and softness. This is the end of the journey, but not of the story that lives on in you now, in the way you see people, the way you listen for silences, the way you hold memory like a pressed flower inside. Your chest, you are not the same, and that's the gift she gave you. Not a fantasy, not a scandal, not a secret, but a shift, a quiet, beautiful shift. You were chosen, not for your title, not for your power, but for your stillness, for your willingness to witness someone fully. And in doing so, you became something few ever are in the pages of history. You became real. Now, let go. Let your thoughts drift like candle smoke. Let your body rest as if the world is safe again. Let sleep come not to erase this, but to carry it forward, softly, completely, into the night between chapters. The night doesn't feel finished, not just yet. It lingers around you like mist on a warm morning, unwilling to break. You stir softly in your thoughts, not fully awake, not fully dreaming, somewhere in between, where time moves slower, where memory breathes. You're walking again, not through the palace this time, not through gardens or corridors, but through something quieter, more intimate, a memory within a memory. A voice, distant and close at once, hums like a lullaby without words. You don't know where you're going, but you don't need to, because in this place, the journey itself is the comfort. You see flickers of candlelight on water, not real water, imagined, remembered, softened by time. Her fingers trail through it, rippling the image until even your name feels like a wave returning to shore. She looks over her shoulder at you, not with urgency, just with knowing, the same way she looked the first time. You hesitated to touch her hand, and you smile because you finally understand. This place is not a return. It is a gift, a final one. The light in this dream memory isn't candlelight or sunlight. It's something softer, like moonlight filtered through silk, or the glow of a thought before it becomes a feeling. Everything here moves slower, even her. She walks beside you now, not as a figure from the past, but as presence, warm, whole, and unburdened. No title weighs on her shoulders, no whispers follow her steps. She exists as she always wanted to, without history chasing her and without expectation pulling her apart. You don't speak. You don't need to. She reaches out. And your fingers brush. This time, you hold on. And it doesn't feel like goodbye. It feels like permission. To remember her without sorrow. To carry her without clinging. To let love be something that happened without needing it to continue. She leans her head against your shoulder, and for one final moment, the world stops pretending. The landscape shifts around you like a stage changing scenes without applause. You somewhere else now, a quiet courtyard bathed in morning haze. The stone is warm beneath your feet, and there's no sound but the occasional rustle of ivy on the walls. She stands across from you, no distance between you, but air and memory. Her hands are folded in front of her, but her eyes never leave yours. It's a gaze full of softness, full of what was never spoken. She tilts her head, just slightly, and you know what it means. Not farewell, not even thank you, just, I see you. And maybe that's what this all was about. Not the night, not the setting, not even the romance, but the seeing. In a world that constantly demands masks, the greatest intimacy is to be seen and still be chosen. She walks toward you, and when she stops, she reaches up gently and brushes something from your shoulder. Maybe it was never there at all. Maybe it's just her way of saying, this part is yours to keep. She steps even closer now, and you feel the air shift. It is not dramatic there. There's no rush of music, no final kiss to seal a memory. Just presence, pure quiet, undemanding presence. The kind you carry without realizing, the kind that changes the way you breathe. She reaches for your hand, not to hold it this time, but to press something into your palm. It's not a ring, not a letter. It's a ribbon, frayed at the edge, soft from being touched 1,000 times. You recognize it. It was once woven into her hair. You curl your fingers around it instinctively, and she smiles like as handing you not just a keepsake, but a piece of her, the version that existed only with you. And then she takes a step back, not to leave, but to give you room, to carry this memory forward, not trapped in the past, but alive in your stillness, your kindness, your truth. The courtyard around you begins to fade, not abruptly, but gently like fog, dissolving with the first warmth of morning. The stone softens beneath your feet. The ivy shimmers, even her features blur slightly, not disappearing, but merging with something deeper. Not memory, not dream, but knowing. You don't feel loss. You feel fullness. Like something inside you just quietly expanded to make space for this, for her, for the night, for the truth you shared without needing it to last forever. She lifts her gaze one final time, not asking anything of you, just offering a kind of peace that can't be spoken. And then, without turning away, she begins to dissolve into the light. You don't chase her. You close your eyes, and in the stillness that follows, you realize you didn't lose her. You became her witness, the quiet, eternal keeper of a truth no one else will ever touch. Your breathing deepens. You feel your body soften more with each breath. The space between your thoughts stretches wide and calm. You dawn. To need the palace anymore, not the gowns or gold, not the whispers or the candles. What remains is quieter, truer. The memory of her isn't fading. It's settling, finding its place inside you, not as a ghost, but as a guide. You'll carry her when you walk into silence without fear, when you speak gently to someone who's never been seen, when you offer your presence, not as a performance, but as a gift. That's how this story lives on, not in the pages of history, but in the softness of how you move through the world now. The ribbon still rests in your hand, but maybe it was never about the ribbon. Maybe it was about the permission to remember beauty without needing to possess it, and to love without holding too tight. not from exhaustion, but from surrender, the kind that only arrives when everything has been felt and nothing needs to be fixed. You lie back in your mind, the ribbon still curled gently in your palm, not clutched, but held. You feel the warmth of the courtyard, even as it fades, the softness of her voice long after it's gone, and slowly you let go of the scene, not in grief, but with reverence. Because not everything sacred needs a shrine. Some things live best inside you, subtle, woven into the way you offer comfort or meet someone, eyes or say goodbye without closing your heart. The stars have returned overhead, blinking like quiet reminders that the story is never truly over. It simply changes form and becomes part of who you are. You are floating now, not in water, not in air, but in memory. A memory so soft, it doesn't demand attention. It just exists. Like the way silk brushes skin, like the way quiet lingers after truth is spoken. You wonder if she feels it too. Wherever she is in time, maybe she does, maybe every time. Someone remembers her not for the scandal, but for the softness. She smiles. Maybe she whispers, "Thank you" to no one in particular. Or maybe, just maybe, she forgets the role and remembers the night, the one with no audience, the one with no end. And maybe that's all you needed. Not a conclusion, but a place to rest. You've arrived there now, not because the story is over, but because it finally feels safe to sleep. You lie still and the world lies still with you. There are no more images, no more scenes, just feeling, just warmth. A kind of sacred hush that exists only when a story has given you everything it could, and you've accepted it with open hands. Your eyes are closed now, but your heart is open, and through that openness, she remains. Not as a face or a voice or even a name, but as presence. The presence of being wanted without reason, of being trusted without promise, of being remembered without proof. This is your ending. Not sharp or final, but circular, like breath. It rises and falls gently, endlessly. Like her laughter echoing in your memory, like your touch still warm in hers. Let that be enough. Let it be everything. Sleep has nearly taken you now, not like a thief, but like a lover. Slowly, gently, without asking too much. Your breath is steady, your mind is quiet, and somewhere in the distance, the night hums on, not behind you, not ahead of you, but within you. This story may not be told in books. It may never be spoken aloud by scholars or etched into stone. But that dosen, Timin, it isn't real, you lived it. In the stillness, in the presence, in the honesty of being seen. You shared something timeless, and now, all that's left is the rest. Let the ribbon slip from your hand. Let the candle burn out. Let the silence be enough. Because in this space, this quiet, breathless space, you are more than a dreamer. You are a part of the night itself. Good night. Some nights leave you changed. Others simply stay with you. This night has done both. And as your breath slows and your body melts deeper into the hush of rest, what lingers is not her voice or her touch or even her name. It's the way you were seen, not as a character in a story, but as someone who mattered. You feel it in the way your shoulders soften, in the way your jaw unclenches without you noticing. The kind of safety that doesn't shout or insist. It just stays. And in this gentle part of night, where time forgets how to move forward, she is still there, not to speak, not to appear, but to remain. A warmth in the air, a rhythm in your chest. You are not remembering anymore. You're simply being with what the night gave you. And that is more than enough. You wonder, quietly, if she ever felt this too. This strange peace that settles after the world has stopped watching. Did she ever lay still in her room and feel herself drift outside of her role? Just for a moment? Not the favorite. Not the beauty. Not the rumor. Just a woman with her eyes closed and her heart still open. You like to think she did. That even once, she escaped the weight of all the wanting. Not into hiding, but into something soft, like the press of a palm or the quiet of a shared silence. You imagine her there now, in that imagined space beyond time. And she smiles at you across the veil of memory, not because she's still there, but because you remembered her this way. Not scandalous, not tragic, but human. The world around you fades to the softest gray. Not dark, not bright, just muted, like linen left out in the sun. Everything feels slower now and lighter, as if your body has begun to dissolve into the quiet it was always meant for. You don't reach for her anymore. You don't have to. She's no longer a figure across the room or a whisper in the night. She's become something simpler, a part of your breath, the rhythm of your heart. This is what the night was always leading toward. Not an ending, not even closure, but transformation. The kind that doesn't need to be witnessed to be real. The kind that leaves you exactly where you began, but entirely different. You feel your thoughts stretch thin, softening like silk, folding over the edges of memory. And still, there is no sadness, only quiet, only peace. You remember something now, something small, something that didn't seem important at the time. A gesture, a glance, the way her foot brushed yours under the water. It wasn't meant to be remembered. And yet, it is. Because intimacy lives in the details no one else sees. Not the grand declarations or the stolen kisses, but the soft sigh she gave when you wrapped the towel around her shoulders. The way she leaned into your hand when you combed her hair without asking. It's in those places you return to now. Not with longing, but with a kind of reverence. These are the places no historian will ever write about, but they live on. In the way your body remembers softness. In the way your heart now recognizes truth, even in silence. This is how she remains. Not as a story, but as sensation. Not as history, but as home. You drift further now, past memory, past thought, into the quiet space where only feeling remains. The kind of space where words no longer matter, where names dissolve, and all that's left is warmth. You feel her again, not beside you, but within you. Not her presence, but her peace. It lingers in your chest like the last glow of candlelight before sleep swallows it whole. You carry it with you, not as a burden, but as a soft hum beneath your breath. This is the final intimacy. To keep someone not in your arms, but in your stillness. To let their presence become the way you breathe, the way you pause, the way you let go. You don't need to open your eyes. You don't need to say goodnight, because the night never ended. It just quieted, and in that quiet she is everywhere. And you are finally at rest. Even your thoughts have grown drowsy now, folding in on themselves like petals at dusk. What once felt like memory now feels like a lullaby, one you don't need to understand to feel safe within. You lie there, still and weightless, and everything slows. The way she breathed, the rustle of her silk robe, the flicker of light against her collarbone. Each detail returns, not in order, not in clarity, but in feeling. The kind of feeling that cradles you like a voice humming just beneath the skin. She doesn't need to appear again. She doesn't need to speak. Because somehow, through the quiet ache of memory, you already know what she'd say. That love doesn't always ask to last forever. Sometimes it just asked to be real once. And this night, it was. You wonder if she ever woke in the middle of the night just to listen to silence. If she ever lay there, heart open and bare, wondering if she could be loved for more than what the world demanded from her. Maybe she did. Maybe that is why the way she touched you felt like an answer to a question you didn't know you were asking. It wasn't about desire. It wasn't about escape. It was about being known. Not admired, not envied, not judged, just known. And now, that knowing belongs to you. It's carved into the rhythm of your rest, woven into the breath you didn't realize you were holding all this time. And it stays with you, not loudly, not brightly, but completely. Like the last line of a lullaby, still echoing as your eyes close. You no longer wonder what came next for her. Not who she loved, not how history remembered her. Because in the world you shared, this world, she wasn't a mistress or a myth. She was just her. And that version, only you got to know. That's the version that stays. The one who whispered without needing to be clever. The one who leaned into your shoulder without apology. The one who, for just a few stolen hours, stopped performing and simply was. You honor her now, not by telling the world, but by remembering. Gently. Silently. Like a pressed flower between pages no one else will ever open. Because sometimes the most tender truths are the ones you never speak aloud. Only carry. Your breath has become the only sound now, slow and rhythmic like a lull in the wind. The edges of your awareness have softened into velvet, and the ribbon she gave you rests somewhere beyond your fingers. Now part of the air, the stillness, the hush inside your chest. The world no longer feels heavy. It feels held. And you too are held. Not by hands, not by memory, but by the truth that something beautiful happened, that it mattered, that you mattered. This isn't sleep the way most people know it. This is surrender. The kind that welcomes you like a bed warmed by someone who waited. And as you drift deeper, the night closes gently around you, not to hide you, but to keep you safe. Sleep is here, not waiting at the edges, but already inside you, unfolding quietly like moonlight through silk curtains. You don't fight it. You don't cling to the story. You let it settle the way dusk settles on stone. Gently, completely. The ribbon is no longer just a memory. It's a promise. That what you shared was real. That tenderness can exist outside of history books. That even in a world of power and pretense, there was a night that belonged only to truth, only to softness, only to you. The bed cradles you now, and the story becomes silence. Not because it's over, but because it's become part of your breath. Good night, again. We'll meet in the quiet between dreams. A story with an ending that feels just right. You remember the night, of course you do. How could you not? Even months later, the memory of it persists. The feeling of it, the quiet aftermath of a storm. You're still here, not in the same place, not even in the same part of the night, but in the feeling, that quiet, weightless place where the world doesn't end. It just softens. You don't reach for her anymore. You don't need to, because something deeper has taken root. Not a memory, not a dream, but something more still than either. A knowing. You turn your head against the pillow. There's no sound now except your breath. No candles, no whispers, no silken rustle in the dark. And yet, her presence remains. Not like a ghost, not like a shadow, but like the space between heartbeats. So subtle it could be missed. So honest it can't be forgotten. This isn't longing. It's the echo of being seen. And that echo hums in you now. Gentle, steady, complete. The room you imagine isn't real anymore. Not the bath, not the palace, not the hush between her steps. But you can still feel the shape of it. The stillness, the permission, the way the world felt smaller, safer, when it was just the two of you breathing in the same time. That was the miracle, wasn't it? Not that she touched you, not that she chose you, but that you both stopped pretending. For a moment, you were no one special, and so was she. And maybe that was the most sacred thing of all. You open your eyes. Not in the story, not in the past. Here, and the ceiling looks just a little softer, the air a little warmer, as if the room has remembered with you. You sit with that. You let it wrap around you like a robe just pulled from warm skin. And somewhere in the hush, you feel the truth settle in. She was never yours to keep. But this feeling is, this version of the night, the real one, the quiet one, the one that didn't ask for applause or explanation. This one belongs to you. It doesn't need to be told. It doesn't need to be defended. It just is. Like candle smoke that lingers long after the flame is gone. You'll sleep now, not because you're tired, but because there's nothing left to hold on to. Everything that mattered has already been felt, already been given, already lived. She's not beside you, but she's not gone either. She exists in the quiet space where truth lingers after words disappear. And maybe that's where love belongs. Not in forever, but in the night you'll never need to explain. So rest softly, with her breath in your memory, with her warmth in your chest, and the story finally complete. Good night, and thank you for remembering her with me. But it's not over yet. There's more to this story. Yes, indeed. More to tell, more to show, more to give thanks for. If you want it, then stay with me. If you're ready to keep listening, to keep seeing, to keep feeling, then rest your hands upon your heart and repeat after me. Not in forever, but in the night you'll never need to explain. Oh, I see some of you have stayed. How wonderful. Well met. Pleased to share a moment with you. Delighted to be among you. Come closer. Allow me to unfold myself before your eyes. Let me spill out onto the floorboards here and become a constellation of words and music and memories. What? Oh, you want to know how this magic happens? How these characters come to life and stories find their endings? Then you must understand, I am nothing without you. This room, this house, this hearth. It's all built from echoes of laughter, tears, gasps of surprise, the rustle of turning pages, the murmur of shared secrets. It's sustained by the light in your eyes, the questions on your lips, the dreams you bring with you on moonlit nights. You are the reason for the stories. Without you, they'd wither and fade like flowers starved of sun. Without you, the words would scatter and disperse into the wind. Meaningless, purposeless, unheard. It's your company that makes this place a home. Your hearts that give these characters life. Your minds that fill in the gaps. Your spirits that soar and ache with every note and every phrase. I may spin the tailies, but you make them real. We are companions on a journey. You and I, travelers in the same nights, seekers of solace and beauty. Dreamers who dare to hope for happy endings. I am the weaver. You are the tapestry. I am the painter. You are the canvas. I am the storyteller. You are the story. Together we breathe life into these moments, these memories, these shared experiences. Together we make the impossible possible. We create worlds where love endures, where wounds are healed, where hearts find their way back to the light. For I believe it's in these stories, in these shared moments, that we truly connect, not just as audience and storyteller, but as kindred. Spirits as fellow travelers on the path of existence, as seekers of truth and beauty in an imperfect world. We gather here not just to escape, but to return home to ourselves, to each other, to the quiet understanding that we are not alone in this vast universe. For in the telling and the hearing of these tales, in the laughter and the tears that they evoke, we find a reflection of our own humanity. A reminder that we are all flawed and beautiful creatures, capable of great love and profound sorrow, of breathtaking courage and crippling fear. And in that reflection, we find solace, we find strength, we find the courage to face the darkness in our own lives and to keep moving forward towards the light. So come, dear friends, and let us continue this journey together. Let us lose ourselves in the magic of these stories and find ourselves again in the shared experience of it all. Let us laugh and cry and hope and dream and believe in the goodness of life and the enduring power of love. For in doing so, we honor not just the storyteller, but the stories within our own hearts that yearn to be told. And as the night grows late and the shadows grow long, let us remember that we are not just listeners and observers, but co-creators of these tales, weaving them into the fabric of our own lives and making them a part of our shared humanity. So come, let us lose ourselves in the stories and find ourselves in the telling. Let us embrace the magic of this moment and give thanks for the gift of a shared experience, a connection to something greater than ourselves, and a reminder that even In the darkest of nights, the faintest glimmer of hope can light the way.